few other factors come into play. And we're going to talk about three of them in fashion today. The first one is target detection, then range estimation, and then making the shot. So before you can shoot a target, you have to detect it. And so let's talk briefly about what are some of the ways you can find a target. And let's use a hunting analogy. So you're in the woods. Imagine you're hunting in the woods for a nice, tasty elk. And you don't know if there's elk there, but you know that's what you're there for. So what's some of the things you look for as you do target detection?
Birds.
Birds? Oh, I haven't heard that one in a while. Yeah, birds. Yeah.
If it's like a raven or a crow, they'll like squawk and make a lot of noise if it's something they don't like.
They don't.
Well, I mean, like if it's disturbing whatever.
That's in here.
Anything else about the target itself?
Moving foliage.
Movement. That's a good one. So our eyes and eye-brain connection is optimized to detect motion, but there's a lower limit to the motion you can detect. If something is moving slow enough and is far enough away, you won't be able to detect it. So it's 15, 8 or 15. Have a front sight post width that is measured from the here's a front sight post. Here's Mr. Deer.
That's the back of the deer.
Oh, I thought it was the back end. And you know this dimension is 21 inches. You know this is 7 MOA. How far away is Mr. Deer?
300 yards?
300 yards. Because what is 7 MOA at 300 yards?
21 inches.
21 inches. So you can just use the front side post to give an estimation of.
So if the post is, you know, a third, or let's say it's a half of something, it's like 150 yards away.
Correct. That's exactly where it was going. And if the thing you're trying to measure is like here, so it's half the width. Is it further away or closer than 300 yards?
Further away.
It's further away. So if it's half of the front sight post, how far away is it? If this is 21 inches in real life. 600. 600, that's right. That's right. And if it's twice as big, to your point, it's 150, right? Right? So that's if you have iron sights. If you have a scope, scopes come in really 1,000 different flavors. A lot of them just have the crosshair reticle, right? But, many of them, and more of them all the time, build in to the reticle scaling information that you can use, just like we did with whatever scope you buy. If you buy one that has a reticle system like this, read the manual, understand what it's telling you, and use that information to estimate range, just like you had a front sight. You know what range you have figured out through the reticle. So very handy to have. They only work for one caliber, but if that's all you're going to mount the scope on, then you're good to go. A lot of scopes have what they call variable power scope. There's first focal plane and there's second focal plane. And that relates to how the internal optics are engineered. The thing that you need to know is if you have a first focal plane scope, the reticle shrinks and grows with the magnification. So this information is true at all magnifications. If you have a second focal plane scope, the reticle is fixed. And so that scaling only works at one magnification. And it's typically the highest magnification. Spend all your time chasing instead of shooting it. And you try to, anticipate where the target's going to be, and pull the trigger a little sooner. We call that chasing the target. What you really want to do is dial it down. Around when we go back to the line, for those of you with scopes that are variable power, you really need more than like 3 power. Scope that's calibrated in MOA. If you're going to get into this deeper, the MILDOT system is more prevalent for high power scopes. So, but again, it's like metric versus USA. The units are different. Okay, so that's nothing more than circle. Here's the radius. You take this radius and you kind of wrap it around the circle, and how much of the circle it covers, that's one rating, and it's about 57 degrees. A millirating is 1,000th of that, and what that all boils down to is 3.6 inches at 100 yards versus 1 inch at 100 yards. So scopes will actually be calibrated in tenths of a millirating. So you're clicking a tenth of a millirating.
It just to me is like stick with 1 inch.
You just have to know what
You have to know what it is.
What's it?
Alright, so now we're going to talk about making the shot, and external ballistics is what we're really giving. Here's your rifle. Here's your sights. Here's your target. Here's your optical line of sight, right down the center of target. Bullet clears the muzzle, it does that. So you'll never hit your target if it's more than a few yards away, a few dozen yards away, whatever. And what do?
Adjust the sight.
Yes. But what we're doing when we adjust the sight is we're actually canting the rifle up. You can also think of it as you're canting the sights down, but the point is the sights stay fixed on the target, right? And so what happens is, effect, muzzle goes up, and then it goes down. So when it goes up, you're basically trying to cheat gravity for a while, right? And keep it above that optical line of sight for as long as physics allows. When it does that, you get a much longer range, effective range out of your bullet, because it's not dropping below the target anymore. It's sailing above it and then coming down, kind of like an airplane for a landing, almost, kind of like that. So when we talk about zeroing a rifle, what we're talking about, what are the ranges where this bullet crosses over the optical line of sight? And it will do that in 2 places. There's a special case where it's just one. In 2 places. So on the way up, it crosses the optical sight at this point here, and that is near zero. That's what you're shooting today. 25 meters, everyone has been zeroing without maybe realizing it. So your near zero is, for your rifle, is at 25 meters. This bullet will apogee here a little bit at like 110 yards, something like that, and then this is 300 meters. I go interchangeably between yards and meters. It's 10% difference. It doesn't really matter for this discussion. And so, if you zero your AR at 300 yards, at 25 meters, your bullet will be dead on at 300. Approximately, based on length of the barrel and what load you're shooting, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But approximately that's the case. And that's all been engineered so that when soldiers take an AR-15 into battle, they are able to shoot anything between point blank range and 300 meters and not have to concern themselves with adjusting sights.
Does the grain or powder or anything of the ballistics have anything, or is it just kind of average based on
It is a
I don't know if the
second
grain's-
or third order effect that you really, unless you really want to do precision shooting. And remember, we're a 4 MOA shooting instruction here, so we're not after hitting, the button on the light switch. We're trying to get you to hit a 4-inch group at 100 yards. Determinant of whether this holds true or not is, first of all, it's a center fire versus rim fire, but it's really the height over bore of your optic. The height over more than anything else. So caliber doesn't matter in any large sense. Any of the other properties don't matter. It's the height over bore of your rifle. So what I mean by that is, here's your barrel, right, and here's your sight. So how high this is, this dimension here, that's high or low, that will determine basically how much you have to cant the rifle to begin with. And that in turn will determine where this ends up at. For an AR-15 that typically has a height over bore of 1.5 inches, or scopes that drive the optical center line up, this applies in general. For low height over bore rifles like the M1 Garand, picture an M1 Garand, the sights are really low, right? Same thing for the M14, M1A, right? The sights are really low. This number is 200 yards. The Army, for military reasons and for this platform, it works really well. It works really well. So let's say though that you want to shoot something that's not at 300 yards, and I think this is your question from before, George,
Yep.
right? So, and you don't want to be 6 inches off. You want to be something more precise. And you might have a scope or an iron sight, it doesn't matter, but you don't want to take the time to adjust the sights. You don't have the time to adjust the sights. You want to basically cant the rifle manually, right? What we call holding over, either up or down, so that your bullet is on target at that range. So there's a cheat sheet I'm going to give you verbally that will help you do that. And it's good out from 100 to 500 yards. And
Can we write this down?
you can.
Yeah.
I think this actually bought stuff on the appleseed website. 10%.
So this assumes you have that 0, and you want to go somewhere else. So this is the number of MOA that you need to hold over or under if you're going at some other range besides either point blank or 300 yards. And this is how this works. So let's say you are shooting at something that's 200 yards away. So you look on this table and you go, oh, from 300 to 200, I need to hold over 2 MOA. What's 2 MOA at 200 yards?
2 inch.
4 inches. So you need to hold over 4 inches. Now, do you need to hold high or low?
Low.
Right. So remember, inside of 300, the bullet's traveling above the optical line of sight. So it'll hit high unless you compensate by going low. And if you hold low 4 inches at 200 yards, you will be dead on.
But how do you know? How do you know that point?
How do
Because
you-
I would have went high. I wouldn't have went low.
So that's where the range estimation comes in. So you have to know how far away your target
So
is,
far, you got to lower it
right?
down so
Because if you zero it this way, your bullet's going to be higher than the optical line of sight, short of the far zero, and then it drops like a stone after this.
Okay.
Outside of the far zero, the bullet's going to be dropping, so you have to hold high. So that's why knowing how to estimate range approximately becomes useful. That's why that 7 MOA, right, front sight is useful, because that's at 300 yards for a 20-inch wide target. Let's say you want to go from 300 to 400 yards. That's 3 MOA. What's 3 MOA at 400 yards?
12.
12 inches. So, and do you have to hold high or low? You have to hold high by 12 inches, or you're going to miss your target, right? How about from 300 to 500 yards?
That would be
3 plus 4. You have to add them. You have to add them. So 3 plus 4 is 7. What's 7 MOA at 500 yards?
28 inches.
35 inches. That's a yard. You have to hold a yard high.
And that's a measurement on the target.
Yes.
So 35 inches out.
Yes.
Here at the target.
If you want to
Correct.
hit this,
Correct.
in the sky.
So if you want to hit, I'll make something up. You want to hit the top of that red. Was that a chair? You want to just hit the top of that red chair, and that's 500 yards away. You have to aim for the bottom of the tent. That's how that works. So from 300 yards to 100 yards, 2 plus 2 is what? 4, right? What's 4 MOA at 100 yards?
4 inches.
4 inches. So that's 4 inches. From 100 to 200, from 200 to 300, that is 2. What's 2 at 200?
4.
4 inches. So you got a tube in here that's basically 4 inches above the optical center line from 100 to 300 yards. Inside, you're going to have to hold low, because your bullet is literally still trying to get to the near zero. If you're shooting something inside a room, right, you have to hold low. You have to make sure your barrel is clear, furniture or whatever. So that's the battle sight zero concept. That thing travels in a tube, an imaginary tube, that doesn't require you to adjust anything between point blank range and 300 yards.
That's awesome. I never knew that. That's so awesome.
Assuming you're going to settle for a 4, 6 inch, you're getting something that's 4 inches or so in size. And if that's not good enough for you, you use this cheat sheet here. This is good for the AR-15. There's another one. I think it's 2, 3, 4. That's for the M14. For the AK, I think it's.
Short.
I have to look at it. It's like 3, 4, 6, 8. It's much different because the round's got a different Everything's different with that gun. And I like AKs, by the way. But
Tell me.
that's how that works.
So I got a question, right? So let's say I got a Remington 700, 308,
Yep.
okay, and I zero it for, let's say, the 25 meters here, right?
Yep.
My question is, how do I determine without going to this massive field what the tube size is? What is the effective range on that one, right? I mean, 'cause I don't.
So without knowing any details of what your setup, I would say it's a centerfire round.
Yes.
It's got a height over bore,
Yep.
right?
Yes.
And so it'll be very similar to what I just showed you.
So if it's close to 1.5 inches, those same rules would apply.
Yep. Again, I'm generalizing. If you
Yeah,
really want
I mean,
super
I'm not-
precision,
yeah.
you know, it starts to break down.
No,
But
I
in
get
a
it.
very general sense, yes. Changes, other forces come into play.
But so it's not so much AR-15, M14. It's the round, because that's the determines how fast the thing is going, which determines the actual arc.
For the height over bore, for the arc, it's primarily height over bore, and this variation is really round driven. At the second order is the round driven. So
Because all these big rounds are roughly the same.
you're all
speed.
rough, yeah.
Yeah.
So AR-15's got 3,000 feet per second muzzle velocity, right? 308's 2,400, something like that. So, and it's a lot of hiking. All right, so here is Hunter. Here is nice, tasty bighorn sheep. He's up here on his favorite cliff, and so there's the range to target. And let's say, I don't know, it doesn't matter, 500 yards. So, and this is a fairly steep angle. This is like, say, 45 degrees. So you make the shot, your rangefinder, your reticle tells you it's 500 yards. But you miss. Why did you miss? Everything was perfect. You were perfect. You made the perfect shot, but you missed. Because you relied on 500 yard range. Why did you miss? Yes. Gravity only works. This is a triangle. So you got a vertical part and you got a horizontal part. Gravity only works on the horizontal part. Okay? So your direct range to target is 500 yards. Your gravity range, the angle here, whether it's sine or cosine, is 0.707. 70% of 500. So this is 350 yards. So you will miss because your bullet is still traveling higher than you wanted it to as far as gravity matters when it reaches the target. And that bullet will sail over that bighorn sheep's head. So you have to aim low. You have to aim low. Now, bighorn sheep, somehow, you go up here to figure out why you didn't hit it. And when you're going up here, bighorn sheep is magically down there. And so you try again at 500 yards. Do you aim high or low? Because you know you gotta aim, you gotta hold over somehow, but do you aim high or low? Why?
Because my gut's telling me low.
It's the same
'Cause it's gonna
350.
sail over if I aim.
350.
Because gravity.
Exactly. Exactly. So the point here is whether for eligible,
Flies.
for significant angles, right? No, not angles that we're likely to shoot here. But this is an example of how external ballistics matters. Is gravity only works on the horizontal component. Doesn't matter if you're shooting up or you're shooting down. Always aim lower than your direct range. If this angle is, and that's 30 degrees, you know, or more. The 5 or 10 degrees that we do here doesn't matter. Okay, so it's the second most important component you have to compensate for after gravity. So here's you. You're in your nice, stable, prone position with your loop sling, and here's your target. So wind is going this way. Does that matter? It's blowing right in your face. Does it matter?
It might
Wait,
slow
from
down.
above you? Or
No. So this is, you're looking down like a drone. So your target is
Okay.
here. You're lying in prone position on your shooting mat, right?
Okay.
And so the wind is coming directly at you from the target. Does it matter?
It might drop shorter.
Increases drag, but
Yeah, it does theoretically, but insignificantly for this. Right. So it does not matter. How about if the wind is behind you, blowing towards the target?
it's the same.
It
Same.
No.
no.
Correct. So what matters is crosswind. And we'll use example of it. Yes, it's definitely a crosswind. So, and we'll keep it simple here. So, bullet's going this way, wind is blowing this way, bullet's going to go that way, right?
Yeah.
So, the rule of thumb to try and compensate for direct crosswinds is 1 MOS per 10 miles an hour. So your bullet will be projected 3 inches
To the right.
to the right. Correct. What if it's 20 miles an hour and it's 600 yards?
12 inches.
12 inches. Yes, that's exactly right. So there's a shooting competition in Cape Perry, Ohio. It's right on the shores of Lake Erie, I believe it is. And it's like watching that golf course in Scotland where the wind does this to golf balls, it does that to bullets too. And at your shooting position from halfway down range to the target. It can be going this way, and then that way, and then the other way. So, being able to estimate wind, so that's why wind matters, right? And that target is less than 12 inches wide where you want it to be. So, does it matter?
Yeah.
It does. Does it matter as much as this?
Not really.
No. Okay. So you can do the tech way and get these little wind meters and figure everything out. And well, rule of thumb is three-quarter value. So when angle of wind, whatever you computed here,
Divided by 3.
multiply it by 3/4, and that's your compensation.
Is it not divide by 3?
No, it's 0.75. You
Multiply by
it
0.75.
0.75.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. Now, again, that's really an approximation. So,